If you're not a professional wrestling fan, it's really tough to convey the emotions of what happened last night, okay? There were people in the crowd that were crying, and that's really fucking cringe, but professional wrestling is this weird thing where if you're a fan, you get it, and then trying to describe the emotions and the appeal of professional wrestling to a non-fan is like trying to describe colors to the blind. So the best way to do it is just show them the pop that this dude got from the United Center last night in Chicago, in his hometown. 16,000 people legitimately losing their fucking minds for the first time in 7 years to see him sitting, see him standing, see him hopping into the crowd, see him sitting on the top of the ramp, and seeing him back in a professional wrestling ring, setting up the first angle of his career is otherworldly, okay? I'm not the biggest CM Punk fan, not from way back in the day, but I've seen everything that he was doing, what he was allowed to do, what he was capable of accomplishing in WWE, knowing that there was a whole bunch of potential left on the table, and now, thanks to the emergence of AEW, and I would love to talk a hell of a lot about the foundations of the company itself, but we'll see what happens with this video here. This might be a one-off, it might not be, who knows. I'm just saying, this was the biggest event, and it's one of those things where it's a paradigm shift for professional wrestling. Whatever WWE wants to do with sports entertainment, that's fine. It's not for me. I punched out, tried to get back into it, and it's just there's nothing there for me, okay? I like high work rates. I like unscripted promos like what Punk cut last night, and you're just not finding that over there. I'm sure Roman Reigns' heel run is fucking fun, and people like that. It's just the character and the guy does nothing for me, because there's three important points, at least from my perspective, when it comes to being a professional wrestler, to being a big star. And it's something that AEW has in a lot of people, and that's why I'm optimistic about the future that they have there. You need to have a good look, you need to have a character, okay? Those things are pretty much the same, in my opinion. You need to be good on the microphone, and you need to be good in the ring. If you're going to have two of those things, you'll be a good hand. You'll be a great character. You'll be somebody who will always be employed. But if you're a mix of all three of those things, you're going to have a future in the business, kid. And that's something that Punk has, okay? And he's also one of the biggest, if not the biggest stars of, well, he's been out for 7 years, but even still, like, his name continues to be chanted in arenas every single place that there's professional wrestling, mostly to mock, but mostly to remember that this dude was so goddamn over, and people loved him and brought them back, and was the closest thing that they had to a legitimate revival of the Attitude Era, of the time when like 11 million people on Monday nights were watching professional wrestling. Now Raw's lucky to crack 2 million viewers. SmackDown on Fox can barely draw 2.5 on special occasions. This is that moment in time, and AEW is smart enough. I've been paying attention to what they've been doing and the talent that they're accruing and the partnerships that they're forming, where it's going to be a return of professional wrestling, and not a lot of things that I remember, a lot of things that I associate with my childhood, but when it comes to professional wrestling and sports in general, something else that I'm very passionate about that we talk about on the channel as well, I'd love to see it come back, and this is that moment. At least it feels like it. It's as close as we're going to get to something kicking off and something being great. Like I said, the Fed's just going to do whatever the Fed wants to do, and that's fine. I'm sure you'll sell a lot of t-shirts to a bunch of kids out there, but eventually when they grow up, they're going to want something more mature, something that's actually telling a story, something where you can actually say shit or fuck every once in a while, something that shows blood, something that shows a real and emotional connection with actual people instead of just basic cardboard cutouts of people who run the same 5 fucking moves over and over again. That's not a shot at Cena. That's the entire playbook of what a WWE superstar is all about. But if you haven't watched this 17 minutes that was out there, from the time that the music hit for Punk, and then by the time that he finished up his promo and set up his first match for All Out against young up-and-comer Darby Allin. If you're a fan of professional wrestling, if you even have an inkling that you might be a fan of professional wrestling, I would definitely recommend checking it out, because it is one of those moments in time that really shows you that after this 7-year hiatus, this man who is 42 years old still has a lot to give in the game. He's not in it for himself anymore, okay? Obviously, he wants to make an impact. Obviously, he wants to be a change in the business so nobody else has to go through the shit that he went through with the Fed back in the day. He wants to elevate the young kids so that there is a future for professional wrestling. That's why the first thing that he said when he got out there, boy, you guys really know how to make a guy feel like Britt Baker in Pittsburgh. okay? Letting people know that he knows what the content of the product is and that he knows that the young people need to be elevated. That's why he called out Darby Allin. That's why they set up that program. It's to elevate the younger kids, okay? Because if you take a look at AEW's roster, it's not like Impact. It's not like WCW when they were at their most bloated. It's not just every single overran that they could poach, that they could come get from the WWF, or from the WWE now. It's a lot of homegrown talent. And then it's taking those people who are underutilized, like you got your Miros over there, you got your Malachi Blacks over there now, and they're being presented as huge stars because they've had the shackles taken off of them, and they're making the most of the effort. They're given most of the opportunity. They're just allowed to go out there and either succeed or fail on their own merits. There's not 45 writers in the back. There's 6 coaches that are helping people out that you go back and you ask, hey, how was my match? How can I go out there and make it better? How can I cut a better promo? They have some great people working in the back. A lot of people who drew money back in the industry. And while it's not perfect, they're doing the best job of any major company that at least I can see out there right now. And the hits are only going to keep on coming. Okay, because another guy who has a lot of significance is also on the horizon. Is supposed to be making his debut September 22nd in Arthur Ashe Stadium. Daniel Bryan, another guy who was kept down by WWE. Sure, he accomplished a lot. Sure, he was potentially, you take a look at things, he was probably the biggest star at the time he was at his biggest. But instead of seeing the potential there, the WWE just went, no more Cena. No Roman Reigns. Because those are the guys who are just going to do everything that the company asks for. Instead of having the most talented wrestler, a guy who got really, really, really good on the mic, a man who has a connection with the fans, second to none. He's going to come over. He's, reportedly signs with AEW. It's apparently a done deal. September 22nd, the big old tennis stadium where the US Open gets held every single year. He's going to be out there. Why did he sign with AEW? Because he wants to work Japan. How can he do that if he signed with AEW? Because AEW is making connections with all of the major companies that aren't the WWE in order to make the matches that people want to see. Instead of just trying to push the company over the product. They're trying to make professional wrestling more accessible to people out there. They're trying to make it so that you can see what's best about professional wrestling. Like I said, it's not perfect, okay? There was a couple of start-stop programs that they tried to get off the ground, and then they realized it sucked. Like the Dark Order stuff way at the end of 2019 there, where they beat down the Elite. It just wasn't going anywhere. It got killed overnight. And if this was the WWE, they'd just continue to force it down your throat. But no, they immediately course corrected and they fucking switched off. They aren't hot-shotting any titles out there. You take a look, there's been, 4 different TNT title champions over 5 different reigns. 3 world title holders, all of which over 100-day reigns. 4 different tag champions. And this is a company that's been going since 2019. They've been signing big names before, and they don't just immediately get inserted into the title picture. The thing that Impact, or I guess TNA back in the day, they would do to undercut their younger talent. And AEW, you take a look at their roster. It is full of young talent. People that have all the talent in the world. They just needed the break. AEW provided it. And sure, there's some underutilized talent right now. I would love to see more of a shitty heel Joey Janela. Jack Evans and Angelico being horribly underutilized right now. They aren't perfect, but it's the best that's out there right now. And now that you're starting to get some bigger names to come on over, now that you're getting legitimate household names, guys who were more fucking popular, who broke into the mainstream, Punk, Daniel Bryan, guys who have a love for professional wrestling. This is why I'm optimistic. And then the same thing can be said for Bray Wyatt. Like, this was the last time that we talked about professional wrestling. He got cut by WWE for reasons that continue to astound me. He got himself over with a larger than life character that probably could have broken to the mainstream because it was so different and it was just such a big contrast, and he has so many ideas in his head, and he's been trying to work on this stuff for a long time, but eventually he got up to a certain level, and then the Fed just undercut him every single time because they're so afraid that somebody's going to get bigger than the company, and then they can't control him anymore. So now with Bray Wyatt going over to AEW, apparently is around, it looks like the talks are progressing about the same way that Tommy End, Aleister Black, Malachi Black now, they were going along. So there are a couple of different obvious positions for Bray Wyatt to slot immediately in, and he could flex his creative muscle because this dude can absolutely work. He's a guy who is young, who does have history, or at least family lineage in the business, and would give something different to AEW because, there's criticisms. They don't have enough characters. Well, you're not going to find somebody who put a bigger character out there in the past 5 years than Bray Wyatt. Let's be completely honest here. So there's big things coming. I'm very optimistic. No, I didn't say a whole hell of a lot in the grand scheme of things, but I feel more excited about professional wrestling now than I have in a very long time. And I feel that that's a common sentiment from people out there who used to be fans, okay? Because I went through all of those shitty fucking drudges of all of those really fucking awful former football players that would come around in the early 2000s. Vince McMahon trying to recreate characters, fucking trudging out DX for the 9th or 10th fucking time. It was the drizzling shits. But eventually, every once in a while, something would catch your attention and something would make you optimistic about where a story is going to be going. And in today's day and age, with all the insanity that's going out there, it's just nice to look towards something, see the potential that's there, know their track record, haven't been disappointed by any of the major shows that I've watched, see the trajectory that they're on, and know that there is something optimistic to look forward to. So we'll see how this goes, see what happens, but when wrestling's hot, there's nothing quite like it, and I hope that this is the beginning of something really, really, really cool. I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Catch y'all later.